Let's go ahead and finish up with chapter 1. So now we're going to talk about some vocabulary. So we're going to talk about experiments and variables. So the purpose of an experiment is to investigate the relationship between two variables. When one variable changes into another, we call that first variable an explanatory variable. The affected variable is the response variable. So basically what you're trying to do is trying to take two variables and control one to see the response you get in the other. So the difference in the explanatory variable is called treatments. Another way to look at this is you have to worry about, other than the two variables we talked about, lurking variables. So just because you're causing a change in the response variable, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's happening because of the variable you changed. There could be a lot of stuff that's happening under the surface that you don't see. So what a researcher does is they will use something called a treatment and control. So it is important when you're setting up these units that you make sure that you do a random assignment for all your units in your groups, even your treatments, your control, everything you do, you want to randomize. The reason you're doing that is so you can truly say that your experiment was random, that you tried to control all your lurking variables, and everything's on the up and up, especially in drug studies or anything with food. Because when you present that, you have to show your results and show how you did everything so that you show that you didn't cause malice or that you didn't in some way cause your results to go in one direction. So when I was talking about this, I was talking about control group, and that's a group that has had no treatment given to it. Sometimes they'll be given a placebo treatment, which is a treatment that doesn't really do anything. It's kind of like if I gave you a sugar pill or something that has no effect on you based on the treatment. The other groups will get the treatment, which is actually, it could be different doses of a drug, it could be different exercise programs. Your treatments are what is controlling your experiments. So what we do sometimes is called blinding, so that the person in the study doesn't know what group they're in. Usually when you're doing trials for drug testing or anything that would be used for people or even animals, you have to do a double-blind experiment where the subject and the researcher have no idea what's being tested on them and what amount. You can tell them you're doing like heart medication or stuff like that. You just can't tell them, oh, I'm giving you 2 pills for your heart medication when the other group's getting 4 pills and there's another group getting 0. They're not going to tell you that thing. And they even try to keep the researcher out of it so they won't be biased in their results. So a reason a lot of this times we have to worry about this is because of ethics. Because sometimes companies will put out results that really aren't true in order to drive up the stock price, to make a prescription sell more. And that's where we come into ethics. And there's been many times where researchers have been called out for the results they've published. And on the screen is an example of one who he was falsified data in 55 papers and on 10 PhDs that he supervised. Which, if you've studied any kind of medical stuff, you'll see about the autism study. It came back that researcher, he was actually investigated and found guilty of falsifying his results. So with ethics, you just have to be careful. And many times when you do a study, you have to go before ethics and they have to show how you created your data set, how you got your data, did you do something misleading? There's a number of things you have to look at. So there is something called an IRB, Institutional Review Board. We actually have one at Georgia Highlands and I actually serve on it. And what that does is we have to read documents and proposals from people who want to do research to see if there's any harm or any reason that we should suspect that people are being neglected or hurt through studies at GHC. When I did a debt survey study at the college, I had to go and produce an IRB for people to look at them. So when I did that, I had to prove what I was trying to set out to do, who was affected, why I was doing the study. It's kind of an oversight committee that shows that nothing is being hurt. And when you do a study, you have to give people informed consent. You cannot tell people that you're doing one thing and do another. So I couldn't say, oh, I'm testing you for heart medication, when in reality, I'm testing a drug for your liver. You can't do that to people. So you have to give it in writing, and you have to make sure people understand. And even though you give it in writing, when you give consent, many people will go over the consent form because there are still people today who aren't literate, and we need to make sure they understand what they're agreeing to. So before you can do a study, you always have to have IRB approval and make sure you have consent from the people you're studying.